Hey guys, let me take a minute here to tell you about our latest sponsors, Just Meat It. Head over to justmeatit.ca to get yourself some high quality meats delivered to your door directly from the farmers themselves. And when I say high quality meats, I mean it. No antibiotics, no growth hormones, no chemicals, not even any performance enhancing drugs. None of these animals have ever won races that they shouldn't have won, all right? And these animals, we're talking ostrich, we're talking bison, elk, animals that you can't catch by yourself. They even have Wagyu beef. So do yourself a favor, head over to justmeatit.ca, order yourself a box. You'll be supporting the local economy, local farmers, local business, and us. Justmeatit.ca.
It's time.
JOFO In the Ring crew is here. You're still missing Kyle, though.
Still missing Kyle.
He doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I am acknowledging him just so people know. We got Frank and Jeremy in studio. I want to know about the belts. You brought belts in here and you tried to attack my associate Poseidon.
I did. You know, normally I'm putting these belts on the line usually, but today I just kind of want to show them off a little bit. So you can see right here, this is the Great North Wrestling Canadian Championship. So we know without
bring it higher. Let him see this. I'm very curious.
I can raise it up just like that.
Oh, that's bad. Put it lower. There. That's it.
I usually don't hold it like this because this kind of hides my beautiful face, but
it is a cool fight. It looks heavy.
It's real gold, and I've had this belt on 3 different occasions. So first time I won it was, I think, back in maybe 2013, 2014.
Okay.
I wasn't the inaugural champion. I beat the inaugural champion, who was Lanny Poffo, who's the brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Beat him up and down, beat his ass all over some small little town in New Brunswick.
Good.
Won the belt for the first time. Unfortunately, lost it. Got it back in a ladder match. It was an interesting ladder match. You can actually see it online because I won it with the help of a Canadian senator, Patrick Brazo, who's kind of the bad boy of Canadian politics.
That's why I don't trust politicians.
You never trust politicians.
When you look away, they'll hit you with a chair.
Well, at least that night, he didn't screw me over. He was screwing over one of my opponents and helping me win it. But that was pretty cool, having a member of parliament come out, push a guy off a ladder, and allow me to go up and grab the belt.
Oh, that's badass, dude.
You can see it online. It's all on YouTube.
That's fucking badass.
And the third time I won it from a guy named Wes Briscoe. His dad was Gerald Briscoe, who was in the WWE.
Yeah.
Very close to the inner circle of Vince McMahon. And so, I beat Wes Briscoe to win this for the third time. And it was a bittersweet victory because, in the match itself, I sustained a lot of damage, some bumps and bruises. But in the end, my superior intellect and my world-class athleticism is what paid dividends and allowed me to have it for the third time. So I'm the 3-time champion, current champion, longest reigning champion. I'm pretty much Mr. Canada when it comes down to it.
Does COVID count, though? Because let's say when you take a hiatus because of COVID, it still counts in days as champion, right?
It does, but in my case, if you take COVID out of the equation, I still have more cumulative days as champion.
That's funny.
Even without that. So now it's just a huge landslide that I'm champion by, and I doubt anyone's ever going to hold this belt longer than me.
No chance.
Well, that's why we brought you here. Actually, this is an ambush. Me and Frank are taking that belt. People walking in with chairs. Oh, and what about the tag team one?
Yeah, this one is from a company called the IWS. So
I know IWS.
Yeah, IWS Hardcore. This is the tag team championships. I unseated one of the longest reigning tag team champions in the company's history, probably the longest reigning tag team champion team, which was TDT, the Tabarnak de Team.
That's a good name.
Hope I didn't just affect your monetization by saying that.
Oh, don't you worry. You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Awesome. So yeah, I beat those two like a bunch of, droopy-eyed, armless children there, beat them within an inch of their life, embarrassed them, made them look foolish. But the great thing was that it was not only a victory for me and my partner, it was a victory for our entire movement. Because I kind of started getting a little political. And at the time, it was around the time of the elections. And I said, I see all these people talking about, the Liberals, the NDP, the Bloc Québécois. And it kind of played into my agenda where I'm like, I'm not getting enough screen time in this company. And I think it's because of the way I look. So, just because I'm not your typical bon gars Québécois, because I'm not the Québécois souche, my last name's not a Tremblay or a Ouellette or a Lapierre.
Oh, you went against the French people?
Oh, yeah. So it was a symbolic victory. I mean, I said it straight. I was like, just because I don't, eat poutine, just because I'm not, down in a Molson every other night, just because I don't vote for the Bloc Québécois, that's fine. Because, we might as well be the Black Québécois because we are just as Quebec as anyone else.
Did you call it the Black Québécois?
I literally have the shirt. The
that's
Black
a good name.
So the Bloc Québécois, where I got the idea, was because the Bloc Québécois, their slogan was Le Québec, c'est nous.
Yeah.
That's what they had all over their posters.
We are Quebec.
We are Quebec, pretty much. So I made it Black Québécois, Le Québec, c'est nous aussi.
Wow.
That's kind of funny.
That was
I like
that was the
know that.
idea, and like I said,
a good gimmick.
I started a movement, man. I said, look, why are we not getting enough screen time? You know, I speak fluent French. My partner does too. You know, we're just as Quebecois as anyone, but unfortunately, they don't want to showcase us. They want to showcase these guys that are the pure laine, that are the péquistes, all that stuff. You know, so this was my crusade to say, no, I'm going to fight for my screen time, and I'm going to show you people. I'm going to show you that we are just as Quebecois as you guys. You know, we're just as Quebecois as poutine, as sirop d'érable, as, you know, all that stuff. You know, you don't have to be from Abitibi-Témiscamingue to be, you know, a pure laine Quebecois, okay? You know, I grew up my whole life here. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud to be from Quebec. I'm proud to be from Canada.
Good.
And so it was a movement. And, you know, if you look up the match, the guys that we beat, they represented the stereotypical, exactly what I just described, you know, coming out with the big beards, looking like two lumberjacks, looking like the Leduc brothers from back in the day. And it was a moral victory, but it was a victory not just for us, it was for the people.
This is a good storyline. This is good new wrestling, like independent stuff. The way that they do it right is by doing what worked in the past, which is you get core subjects that people are actually talking about and living through, and you make them a fucking storyline instead of a lot of the goofy shit that the WWE is doing.
Well, that's what gets people involved too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
it's
why.
got to be relatable.
Yeah, you got to feel it, and then you get in.
And now, you know, I think we were ahead of the curve because you look at everything that happened over the last year with, you know, the Black Lives Matters and all these other different things going on, exposing a lot of hate crimes and inequality.
I've been
systemic
committing most of
racism.
them. I've been committing most of those hate rhymes.
But, you know, looking at it like that, I mean, we were ahead of the curve with this because we're saying, look, we just want representation. We just want to be seen on that same level and not be discounted because we don't fit into a certain mold, a certain archetype that you have created because of outdated, let's call it racist principles, you know? So I think that now people can go to a wrestling show, they can see guys like Jeremy Prophet in there, you know, and it can inspire young black kids. You know, I'm very outspoken about the fact that if you look at the history of Canadian wrestling, and I'm a bit of a historian, you think of great Canadian wrestlers. There's tons that we can think of. You know, the Harts, Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, even though we're not supposed to say that name because he did some bad stuff. But, you know, you can't take away.
He just took parenting very seriously. It's just very strict. That's it.
But when it comes down to it, one of the important things was when I looked into this, where are all the great black Canadian wrestlers? And when you think
At
about
the Olympics.
they're probably doing something better than wrestling. But when you think about it, it's that, you know, you have Rocky Johnson. I don't know if you know this, but, you know, the father of The Rock.
Yep.
He was from Amherst, Nova Scotia.
I did not know this.
So he was Canadian, born and raised Amherst, Nova Scotia. Rocky Johnson.
I thought the homie was Hawaiian.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
No. Rock's mother was Hawaiian.
God damn it.
His grandfather was Peter Maivia, who was Samoan, and his father, Rocky Johnson, is Canadian, born in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and he is the greatest Canadian black wrestler of all time.
Well, that's the time where we got to show you our surprise guest, The Rock. Bring it back. He comes.
And what's insane about that is that when you go down the list, it's like, who else is there? You know, you probably haven't even cracked through the top 5, and you're probably already at Jeremy Prophet. And I'm not trying to be braggadocious because that's not the way it should be. Unfortunately, black Canadian wrestlers is a non-existent thing. Even if you think of ones that have made it as far as Rocky to the WWE or to big companies, there aren't any.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. That's
So,
true. I never thought about that.
I didn't even know Rocky Johnson was from.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it's been my crusade. I've been calling myself as of late the Jackie Robinson of Canadian wrestling because Canadian wrestlers have been more or less, you know, oppressed, held down, all the logistics that you have to go through just to be able to wrestle in the United States. And that I don't even mean like to wrestle for WWE or big companies. Just to go wrestle for any company, you need a work visa. You need to, you know, go through all this red tape, paperwork. You need to put up about 10 grand of your own money just to pay for the damn work visa. And it doesn't create an equal playing field for us compared to people in the United States that are wrestling that have access to all these companies, and companies can take a look at them. They can rub shoulders with the right people, advance their careers. We can't even cross the damn border to go do something we love, even if we're not getting paid. And I think this is what's held back Canadian wrestlers. And, you know, talking about black Canadian wrestlers, it's even more of a stigma, of an oppression against them. You know, it's not right that a young black kid can't go watch a wrestling show here in Montreal or here in, you know, Toronto or wherever and not see a ton of great black wrestlers on the show. The representation is not the same. It's why I say it's almost like systemic racism, but it's more of like a systemic ignorance. It's just that like the people who put on these shows, the big companies, they're not aware of what goes on in Canada on a purely Canadian level and on a race level. And I mean, I use black as an example because, I'm half black myself, but there's a lot of other races you could even look at. The Asians. There are literally, I think, maybe one or two, maybe a handful of Asian wrestlers in Canada right now.
Some would argue because the rest of them are in Asia. Because they have crazy, like in Japan, they have amazing wrestling.
They do.
Amazing wrestling.
They do. But it's a case of, wrestling kind of being fairly whitewashed, from Vancouver all the way to St. John's. Representation is not there. Natives, Hispanics, all these things. Wrestling in Canada, there are a lot of problems that need to be spoken about. And I've been speaking the unpopular truth. And like I said, my crusade is to be able to get somewhere where I'll have enough of a platform to be able to help people who are stuck back here facing this. So that's why I say I'm like the Jackie Robinson, because it takes one guy to break that color barrier where people will say, hey, you know what? These Canadians, yeah, they may cost more, but they can make us a hell of a lot of money. We got guys who could be future champions, main eventers, Hall of Famers even. There's tons of guys who probably should be getting their Hall of Fame ring right now, but because they were born in Canada, they don't get the same opportunities, and they end up doing something else with their lives. They end up becoming dishwashers and street sweepers when they could have been millionaire main eventers in companies like the WWE.
So you're saying there's already a barrier for Canadian athletes, and then on top of it, there's a stigma with black professional wrestlers. There's not a lot of them
within Canada.
Within Canada already. So just them breaking that barrier is one thing, and then they have another mess which everyone has to deal with is going to the States. So it's doubly. That's what you're saying is it's more hard for. But not just black, I guess visible minority wrestlers, that we're saying?
Yeah.
Because you said they don't fit the mold.
People of color.
People of color.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate saying people of color. It makes me feel goofy.
Weird.
But it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
That's the difference, is that, when you say people of color, it doesn't just mean that it's the color of the person's skin, because, you look at an Asian person, you look at a Caucasian person, the pigmentation is pretty much on point with both of them. So, people of color encompasses kind of all of that. I know I'm not here to be PC. I really don't want to be. But
it's not PC. It's actually interesting because these are topics. It's shit that I would never even think about.
And
I would never even think about.
Right,
Yeah.
too, right? So.
And not just that. Not just not having visible minorities as wrestlers. I never even thought about, because I know me as a comedian, it's already tough going to the States. Everything costs 10 G's for a fucking to get your visa, to get your O1 and all that shit. Yeah.
Exactly.
So everything's expensive. But I think about me, at least it's me and a microphone. There's not training. There's not, there's so much shit that goes into a wrestler's career where it can make or break you. Plus here, you can't become rich being a wrestler just in Canada. You got to fucking break out to one of, even the independent ones in the States that have money, to make it
Are
big.
the restrictions the same thing for comedians and wrestlers? Is it the same story?
Yeah, more or less. The only difference is that, in talking to certain people, there are certain things where you can talk your way around it. You're going to do an open mic night. It's understood that you're not really taking a job away from someone since it's a free service. We don't really have that in wrestling. It's professional wrestling. Everything is viewed as you're going there and you're potentially taking a spot away from an American citizen who could do that. You're directly impacting the labor force.
We're going to hit our own black guys with chairs.
So the thing is that another thing I'd like to talk about is the fact that even here, I'm probably the only guy willing to say this kind of stuff. Everyone else is kind of like, well, we shouldn't be saying that. We shouldn't, try to upset something that's been in place for so long. There have been some few exceptions who've gotten through, and they've done it illegally. And we shouldn't talk about it because it's going to put more scrutiny on those guys and prevent their chances. And I'm like, no. Why should we have to settle for doing these things illegally? Why do we have to, pray to God for the grace of the Underground Railroad just to be able to go and perform our sport? What we actually need in Canada is better scouting. We need those companies to say, we're going to look to Canada. We know they can't come here and perform in front of us, but we're going to look there and we're going to do our due diligence to find the best talent and make sure they get those opportunities.
Well, that's not Canada's fault. Then it's these companies that gotta. No. But there's so many people though. Like let's say in the States, there's 350 million people. They have a talent pool. So I guess a lot of times like, why would I fucking go to Canada or anywhere, Japan?
Exactly.
I'm going to find someone here, which is not the best for, let's say guys like you that work their fucking ass off and they perfect what they do. It sucks. But you also have to look at it from their point of view. Like it must be a pain in the ass to send scouts everywhere and look. And I don't know. I'm just saying.
Well, every professional sport doesn't. I mean, we're a big hockey city here, right? You know damn well the Montreal Canadiens, they got scouts in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, the team is mostly Russians.
Yeah, it used to be even more Russians.
Yeah.
But they got scouts Czech Republic, Finland, Russia, You know, they got their scouts in all those places. Wrestling, despite being a professional sport, we still call it professional wrestling, hasn't gotten with the times to be able to say, hey, we want to build these companies, these big badass companies with all the best talent. We need scouts in all those places. I'll give you an example. So one of the companies I really like a lot is Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
And we've been doing a lot of promoting for them. They had a big event Friday, the March 26th, where they had their 19th anniversary. So they've been around for a long time. They've produced a lot of top-level talent, guys like Daniel Bryan,
Kevin
CM
Owens.
Punk. Kevin also. And a lot of just, top-level champions and legends and whatnot. They currently have one Canadian on their roster, despite the fact that they have a handful of Australians. They have 6 or 7 Mexicans. They have tons of people from the UK. So
Are you saying we're not as good as the Mexicans?
I think we are probably the best in the world. I mean, I watch wrestling every week. I watch, WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor. I watch wrestling from overseas, from Asia and Europe. Canadian wrestlers, specifically the guys we got here in Quebec, are amongst the best in the world, hands down.
So why would Ring of Honor go for the Mexicans or the Australians? Annoying people. Why would they go for them and not the Canadians?
Because it comes down to who you know. Now, the thing is that with Mexicans, for example, there are companies, unlike in Canada, where you can work and you can make a living. Now, you had said before, there's nowhere you can work and get rich. And that's true for most places in the world when it comes to wrestling. The only exception is Japan. Now, in Mexico, they have 2 huge companies, CMLL and AAA. You can wrestle there and you can make a living. You're not going to get rich, but by Mexican standards, you can make a living. You can provide for your families. So these companies have a working relationship with a company like Ring of Honor. So there's an understanding of you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, help these guys out, we'll bring some of your guys in, that kind of thing. We don't have that kind of leverage here because we don't have a company that is, big and illustrious enough to be able to work out like a talent exchange and to navigate the waters of all the paperwork and the red tape that would go along with that. Ironically, I appear on a show, this company, the IWS here.
Yeah.
They appear on RDS and on the Fight Network. On the show that they have on RDS, it's 1 hour of IWS and 1 hour of Ring of Honor. So they're actually literally on the same programming. It's called La Lutte à RDS is the name of it.
RDS Wrestling.
Gave you guys a free plug. But it's more than they've done for me. No, they've done a lot for me, but I'll give them a free plug. The show is literally 1 hour of IWS, 1 hour of Ring of Honor. So you'd think that a talent exchange would be a natural next step to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no one except for this guy with a black belt in common sense has been able to connect the dots for people. So when it comes down to it, there is sort of a precedence there that this can be done because Mexico's done it, but no one's pushing the envelope, again, except for me, so that this can happen and that Canadian wrestlers can finally get the visibility, at least in one company.
But I think all they would need is you would need a strong Canadian company to start producing wrestling
like
shows.
a farm team.
Exactly. And they're so strong and undeniable, like a farm team, that the bigger corporation in the States would see this and be like, who the fuck is this guy? Get him on the show.
That's what we don't have here in
That's
Canada.
what we don't have here in Canada. But we don't have a lot. Like in Canada, even there's so many look at Montreal just with comedy in English. God damn, dude, it's almost non-existent. We have one comedy club. A lot of this, I don't know, it's because we're less people. A lot of it suffers. For you guys, it's fucked up because you put your body on the line. So you have a limited run. There's years when you could do your sport perfectly. So if it doesn't work out within that time, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Whereas an actor, a comedian or whatever, technically you can still do your shit at 50.
50,
If you're still
years old.
relevant, yeah. So that you guys have like the women with their biological clock of when they can have babies. The same thing. You guys you're timed. So that must be fucking stressful.
Well, it's an uphill battle, and that's for anyone in the wrestling business because everyone has that same window. It's just that we don't have the same equal playing field. We have a lot of people who they'll hear what I say, and there'll be some negative. Like I said, there's a lot of negative coming from within Canada where they're saying, hey,
we got too many black guys wrestling.
Well, none of them will say it to my face. I encourage any of them to come say it to my face.
There's only one on the show. That's what I'm saying. There's too many on this program.
Yeah, we reached our quota.
Because you imagine, it's like we had one here.
That's enough.
But when it comes down to it, there's been a lot of negative because they feel that, don't upset the way things are. But it's like, look, if we just turn a blind eye to the way things are, nothing's going to ever change. And
So you're doing your part.
Oh yeah, I'm doing all the heavy lifting, and I really don't care. I mean, I see people, they got, tons of followers online. They have such a huge platform, and they don't want to do anything. They just want to be the typical ho-hum, maple syrup eating Canadian. We're going to be nice and polite, and sorry, nice and polite can only go so far, but at least you got this guy who's, got the gift of gab, who's got enough gumption and enough guts to actually stand up for this cause, and I can tank through pretty much all the negative to get to the positive and make sure that at the very least, someone's going to hear it, whether it's, a company in the United States, whether it's the WWE, whether it's the Prime Minister Trudeau. It could be anyone. Hey, don't underestimate the power of tweets and retweets.
You never know if Trudeau, but if Trudeau ever invites you to wrestle with him, he means something else.
Oh, he did win a boxing match, actually.
Yeah, we were watching it last week. We were on one of the morning shows.
So the guy that he boxed is the same senator that helped me in that wrestling match.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the other senator. I got to know more about him. He seems like he's down for fun.
Yeah,
What's his name again? Brazo?
Patrick Brazo.
Yeah, he seems like he's into it.
He lives here. I could maybe try to get him as a guest.
Try to get him. I'll talk to this guy. This guy seems. Because you love wrestling. You've always loved wrestling. Yeah. Did you ever think of getting into wrestling in any capacity, not just to wrestle, maybe manage?
He has wrestled.
I have wrestled. It's in high school. We used to have a federation called the LaSalle Wrestling Federation, and as a kid, everybody wanted to be a wrestler. So in the group of friends that we had in high school, we made a wrestling organization. We used to wrestle on the grass at lunchtime.
Okay.
Just entertaining people because we loved wrestling. Then it got to a point where let's do an event. So we were graduating that year, and they said if we could raise some money for the school. So I said, personally, I wasn't making any money off it. I want as much people as possible to come. It's high school. You're going to start getting money off these kids in high school. So I said, let's charge 50 cents a ticket. I got 350 people sitting on the floor after a day of school. Set up a makeshift ring that I made in my head with mats and tennis poles and
whatever
nets,
you had around.
Whatever I had in the gym, because I set it up that I had gym the last class of the day. So that whole class, setting up the whole thing. People sat on the floor. We did a little ramp with the music, with the buzzer. It was a Royal Rumble. And
not to cut you off, but I was one of those people that paid 50 cents to watch his show.
Really?
Yeah, I was a few grades younger, and to me, this was the greatest thing ever happening.
The funny story is that I did somewhat of a Tough Enough. So basically, I was trying to get new talent, the younger grades to be involved.
Okay.
So I asked the younger kids if they want to be involved in the next event, and Jeremy was one of them. 8 to the Tracks was one of them.
And right away, you're like, look, kid.
Bruno was
no
one
black
of them.
guys. No black guys in this. We're doing this Canadian style.
In the end,
he already had one.
In the end, I ended up choosing 8 to the Tracks to be in the next event.
Okay. Over him?
Instead of him.
And now we know why.
So there you go. So but
you son of a bitch.
It all comes full circle in the end because now we work together. We were always friends, but it just goes to show that it's a small world out there.
Wait, so you were a kid?
Yeah.
But you probably loved professional wrestling?
Yeah.
At the time?
yeah.
And then when you saw that, did it click like, oh, fuck, it's possible. Like I could do stuff. Look at these guys. They're just setting something up in the gym. Did that help or?
Oh, no. I had my aha moment like way before. My whole thing was always finish high school and then I'm going right into wrestling. That was.
You were committed.
Man, I'm the biggest fan I know. Like I've been a wrestling fan since I was 5 years old. And I always was, to me, it's like that's the only thing I want to do.
I'm going to introduce you to someone. One day. My buddy Dano, who is the first friend I made in high school.
I know Dano, I think.
Dano, you probably know Dano.
I know of, he would go to a lot of the shows at the Bell Center.
All
and all that
the
stuff.
Shows, whatever you want. He and remember back in the day when there was the between the ropes?
In the ring.
In the
between
ring.
the ropes,
on radio. And you could call in, all that stuff. That was when he had introduced me. That's like my buddy Corky, I think, was working there. And
I know
was,
Corky.
Yeah, there you go.
Big guy.
Big guy. Huge guy. Yeah. Well, he's lost a lot of weight now. But yeah, so we know a lot of the same people. Yeah, so growing up, that was when I went to high school. My buddy Dano is the guy who really got me into professional wrestling at the time. And he was more in love with WWE, but he loved all of it. He knew everything. He would call that stupid. He told me the other day he would call that Bell hotline. CTV used to have it.
The CFCF.
CFCF, yeah. And they would give you rumors about wrestling and all that, and he knew everything. He'd go to school the next day, and he'd be like, listen, guys, this is what I think's going to happen tonight. I heard it on the grapevine.
Because there was no internet back then.
No internet.
So the internet, and even after a Monday Night Raw, when we were a kid, we were too young to say, let me call my friend at 11 o'clock. We couldn't do that. We had to wait till we got into high school, to school the next day, and talk to all our friends about what happened on Monday Night Raw. So that was how we got excited, and I'm glad that I didn't shatter Jeremy's dreams by not picking him and picking 8 to the tracks, but.
I was a little bitter about it, but at the end of the day, I said I knew I was going to find my way into wrestling.
I'm glad you did,
and found my way to you guys too.
There you go.
I wanted to get back to you about Dano though, because we have a common friend. Like I have a friend of mine, Paul. He was a very
Paulie Pigeon.
Yes, Paulie Pigeon. Exactly.
I haven't heard or seen that in years. I haven't.
I'll probably give him a call today. Tell him I was on here with you. So Paul was like the mutual friend between Dano, and there was another friend of his, Mike, also.
Oh, Nemo.
Mike,
long hair, beard. Yeah, Nemo.
Mike.
Yeah.
So Dano, now it's funny because we taped an episode of JOFO in the Ring where we had Devon Dudley on the show.
You know what happened with Devon and Dano at the Bell Center?
This is where I'm going with this. This is where I'm going. Because you were on the episode with me, right?
No, it was Kyle.
You were?
Kyle.
Did you? Okay, so.
Dude, Devon was going to kill him.
Yeah. Please, tell us the story.
Okay. So it was a house show. So I think for the people who don't understand, a house show is they do a show at an arena like normal, but it's non-televised. But they're still there.
Yeah.
Dano and I was supposed to go and I didn't go. It's so funny. He's like, I have extra ticket, come with me. And I was doing something like, I can't go. During a match that Devon was wrestling, Dano was yelling and making fun of him for the entire of the match, to the point where during the match, he turned around to look at him to ask him to stop or whatever, and Dano told him, fuck you, what are you going to do? It went crazy. So the wrestler's taking all this shit. Okay, the event is over. Dano's downtown outside somewhere. Who's walking by? Fucking Devon Dudley.
Oh my God.
What does Dano do? Start shit with him again. Now, Devon, there was a picture back in the day. This is when wrestling websites first started. There was a face-to-face photo of Devon and him. Dano used to work at a building a block away from here. He had gotten hit by a car. So he had a lot of back, because Dano wanted to be a wrestler his whole life, but he had got hit by a car and it fucked up his back. And that's when he started to give up on that dream. Okay. Devon was like, yeah, I'm going to fuck you up. And Dano, he's like, shit, I don't want to get my ass kicked. He's like, really? You're going to hit a fucking guy with back problems? You're going to look like a pussy. Is that really what you're going to do? And Devon was like, is it worth it? I want to kill him, but is it fucking worth it? Like, because he's like, you're going to beat up a handicap? I think that's what he was saying. That's what he was saying. Dude, and then it went around in the media. Like, there was, in the wrestling media, in the wrestling community, there was photos online. People took little videos, whatever we had at the time, cell phones, of Devon and Dano, and it caused a whole ruckus. Yeah.
So we had Devon. Thanks to this man, he got us Devon in an interview on the show. I
like Devon.
I conducted the interview along with Kyle. And at one point in the interview, because I knew of this story, because I know these guys. So when I had him on, I said, I want to ask you about, you have any memories of Montreal, that kind of thing. And he's, went into some other stories, some lighthearted stories. And I said, there was one incident I remember from a house show where you got into it with a guy, and I bring up the whole story to him, and he kind of, I don't remember that.
Yeah, okay, you remember that.
Because I remember going online. Well, first of all, I saw it. I wasn't even sitting that far from him. He had good seats. He was like right up at the front almost. He was maybe first or second row. And I saw when Devon and him had the altercation, I was like at the entranceway, more or less like, I'd say maybe like 5th or 6th row, but right like on the entrance where they came out. And I remember seeing that, and then afterwards, I wasn't there at the parking lot, but I went online, and there was like Devon fan altercation. I clicked on the link, and I see this picture, and I mean, I don't know if we can still find it online. I kind of tried to find it before the interview, but I swear, like the picture, it was almost like Devon had him by like his collar.
Yeah. It was. He was about to. Yeah.
And it looked bad. And I remember that, we would get shows maybe every 4 or 5 months, maybe twice a year. At the next show, I was hanging out at the parking lot because he was one of the guys that was always there early trying to meet the wrestlers and stuff. And we were talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, you notice the Dudleys are gone now? You notice they got fired?" He's like, "They got fired because of me." And crazily enough, I saw a shoot interview with the Dudleys, with both of them, like right after they had jumped to TNA and they became Team 3D, and they were like, "What led to your departure?" And the answer they gave was, they didn't protect us. Something happened, and the office didn't protect us, and they had to let us go. So I really think, to this day, the story never came out. I really think.
Yeah, Dano got him fired.
Dano ended up getting them fired.
I'm going to say something on record, and I got you guys both over here. I'm going to say this on record, and I know that we were hanging out on Sunday. It was 100% his fault, and he deserved to get his ass kicked, and he knows it, because he started it, right? It was 100% his fault, and it's kind of funny that the Dudleys had that situation happen and they had to leave the organization when it was 100% him being an asshole that caused this.
Well, the story I remember, because I think he even like gave some quotes and stuff, and he had said like, "Oh, you know, he injured my back. I have damage to my disc."
Yeah. Dano blamed him for the back injury.
Like embellished.
Yeah.
He embellished what happened.
I want to meet this guy.
No, we wanted to get him in an interview. We wanted to get him to respond to it, and I was going to actually try to track him down. Because,
through me. Yeah, I'll give you his number.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind
What
having
a
him.
small world there.
Yeah.
Small world.
But I know all those people. I was one of those fans at the parking lot of the Bell Center for all the events that would come here. I'd get there at like 7, 8 in the morning. I'd want to meet everyone. I'd see Vince drive. I'd get there before Vince freaking McMahon.
I never got to meet Vince, but I've met Jeff Hardy, Hogan.
And Dano jumped on Vince McMahon's limo too.
He did jump on a limo. Yeah. Dude, you don't understand. Poseidon, I know you're over there. You're trying to produce the fuck out of this. However, I'm telling you. Oh, no. Wait. Go say that into the mic.
I found the image of Dano and Devon Dudley. I'm sending it to you right now.
Send it to me, and I'm gonna. So when people see this, I'm gonna put it on screen. It's definitely worth it.
We gotta get it to Bruno for our episode too.
Yeah, oh, dude, it was. And I remember the time I was like, "Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah." And then he was gonna beat the shit out of me. Yeah. So I told him, "Hey, do you really want to mess with me? I have back problems." Nah. And then he pushed me, so my disc is fucked up. And I told the WWE, I was like, "What the fuck?" Yeah. He got him fired.
I mean, this guy, he'd be worth an interview.
This is it. This was the photo. Here you go.
Crazy. Like
yeah, WrestleView.com. Look at that. That was it. That was Dano, yeah. Dude, with his leather jacket. And it's crazy because looking back at it now, I didn't realize how much like power a fan that claims he's injured could have over someone's career because he sideswiped the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
Literally.
And I like the Dudley Boys.
We all love the Dudley Boys.
Yeah. God,
it's great, and this predates TMZ. This predates like Twitter even. This must have been. I can tell you the exact. This was like 2004, I want to say, or 2004, 2005.
This was a long time ago.
Like it predates all that stuff. And this was, I remember the picture, the story, and bad publicity, and I'm pretty sure that's what led to them being released. And it sucks because those are two nice guys, the Dudleys. They've both been very kind to me in all my dealings with them.
I like listening to them talk. Like even Bubba has a show on Sirius.
Yeah.
I like listening to him. Yeah. Fuck that. We didn't plan this, for the record. Anyone watching this, we did not know. And I just, because you were talking about wrestling, and one of my best friends is psychopath when it comes to wrestling. It was him. I just, it came in my head. What are the odds? That's fucking hilarious.
It's a combination of, I have a very good memory. It's one of the things I always get complimented on and when I do interviews with people and stuff. I remember everything. And most importantly is I remember where I come from. And I remember like in my head, I'm still that, crazy super fan that was outside the Bell Center wanting to meet guys and stuff. That's still me. The business hasn't made me jaded to that. And I remember all those other guys that were out there. And to me, that's who I wrestle for. I wrestle for that fan, for the fan who's like passionate about this, who, takes a day off to go there. I mean, I missed school to go and wait at the Bell Center and stuff to meet these guys. That's because for me, wrestling is school. Wrestling is my education. Thankfully, I have another education too, but I want to be a master's practitioner of professional wrestling.
Did you wait in line for tickets ever?
Yes.
There was a time where me, Nemo, and Dano had an altercation with there was a 50 Cent concert. And the 50 Cent concert, I think, was on Friday. And we waited all night. And on the Saturday at 11 a.m. or some shit, the tickets were going on sale for Raw or whatever. So we were there all night with a bunch of other people. That was my first ever altercation with scalpers, too. That was when Dan was like, no, you can't let the scalper go in front of you. The son of a bitch going to buy all kinds of tickets. Anyways, it was the whole thing. And there was the 50 Cent tour bus or whatever. And we got into this whole thing with the guy that was giving me attitude. And it was this whole altercation that happened. No, with one of 50 Cent's guys.
Okay.
And this happened years ago, and it just came to, Poseidon's like, what? That's like, because I'm stupid, and I would yell at everyone. And I remember, I forgot what the guy said. He told me to go fuck myself or something. For no reason, I just asked a question. I said, hey, is that 50 Cent? Is 50 Cent in there? I forgot what the fuck I said, but it was something benign. It was just a question. And the guy's like, fuck you, you fat motherfucker. It was a white guy. And I was like, what? Get the fuck out of here. Who do you think you are, motherfucker? And then we started this whole altercation, and then we went to eat a mirror because we got somebody waiting in line. But I remember, that's why I'm wondering if you were ever, I could have seen you maybe waiting in line for tickets, or for wrestlers, we used to wait all the time and meet with them, take photos.
Yeah, we probably crossed paths before.
That's crazy.
It's I was always there. That was the one thing I would not miss. I could be I could be on my deathbed. I would not have missed that.
Yeah, when I had first started in high school, I was starting a new job at Harvey's. I missed it. Like, okay, you start on this day, and I was like, yeah, I got tickets for Raw. So I had to start a week later. The guy's like, are you serious? I go, yeah, I gotta be there early because I gotta meet people outside. I remember.
I also remember another thing with Dano was, and you probably know this, that he was in the Jericho concert.
Yeah, of course, with Fozzy. He was the pig, yeah.
He was the pig.
Yeah. Yeah. Him and Nemo would hang out there. They would meet Jericho. He became the pig guy for a while when they would come down here for concerts.
Like any wrestling thing I would go to, if it was like an autograph signing or if it was a wrestling event or like a Fozzy concert, these guys were always there. That's how I became friends with Pigeon, with Paul.
Yeah. Pigeon started his own wrestling thing at one point, I think, didn't he?
I wrestled for his dad.
There you go.
And the thing is, I knew him from before that, and then I started wrestling for his dad. I mean, me and him, we're like best friends to this day.
You see?
Like and then he became a wrestler too.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I trained him. Like he became a wrestler. He did, I'd say, like, maybe 200 matches over the course of like he had about a 10-year career.
This sounds crazy to people, but there was it would make a fun movie one day. There was a huge subculture of wrestling in Montreal. Like all these people that we just mentioned, and what we're mentioning is the tip of the iceberg. Because what I was involved in was the tip of the iceberg compared to him, compared to Dano, Nemo that were in it. There's such fun stories in it. Because even those, was it called Between the Ropes or In the Ring? Remember that?
It was 2 shows.
It was 2 shows. Okay, that's why.
So here, again, my memory.
Yeah.
In the Ring was the first show, which was hosted by Aaron Amadeus.
That's it.
Mark the Shark, Brian the Guppy. Brian the Guppy was the one I knew the most because he was involved in independent wrestling also. Great mind for the business. Probably one of the only people that could ever beat me at a wrestling trivia game would be Guppy.
This was Friday night at about midnight.
Friday at midnight.
Friday, you see that shit? And I was part. Like I would call in. Like we'd call in. We'd become part of the. Oh, it's him again, and you'd become part of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get flushed if you.
I never got flushed.
I never got flushed. But
I would laugh every time. Like I think Dano got flushed.
Man, I remember that show. I remember they had sponsors like Souvlaki Joe's, and I remember the episodes like they were yesterday.
Dude, it's crazy.
But then they had Between the Ropes was the one that was Saturday. I think it started off Saturday at noon, and then they got bumped maybe down in their time slot to Saturday at like around 4 or 5 or something. That one was Manny T and Guppy that did that one. I think Tanya Armstrong was on that one too. She was. I got to know her too. She was another big super fan, black girl.
Oh, shit.
You probably remember her.
Yes.
She also became a ref in wrestling. She was in fact, as far as I remember, I think she was the only female referee here in Quebec. And I had done some road trips with her too, like me, Paul, her. We had like another little crew. That's where Paul and I started really becoming close, was when I was wrestling for his dad's company. I knew him as being a wrestling fan before, and then now I'm wrestling, and I'm seeing him at shows pretty much every month. And then he started getting really more involved in wrestling and going to like all the pay-per-views. So he wanted to do like all the WWE pay-per-views, and I think he succeeded in doing it, all of them in a calendar year. And the ones that were close, when there would be a spot in the car, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll come along. So we went to Charlotte, North Carolina together for the Return to DX, 2007, Vengeance. We went to Chicago for a pay-per-view. We'd go to Albany and Buffalo like all the time. And he always had the hookups. He knew where the wrestlers were staying. Like, so we'd always stay at the same hotels. Sometimes we'd go to the airports. Like we would talk with these guys. They were these like nerdy fans who would, they had no jobs. They just would like get wrestlers to autograph stuff and they put it on eBay. And,
my God.
That's what they made their living doing that. They made like $20,000 a month just selling stuff on eBay.
What the fuck?
Because the only way to meet these guys
you have
to like wait for them at the airport or at the hotel. Right? So we would talk with these guys and they'd give us all the hookups of, oh yeah, the wrestlers come in at this time and usually they stay at this hotel. And so they were feeding us all the info. And that's how I met like tons of people before I even got my first WWE tryout. And it's funny because then I'm getting a WWE tryout and I'm like, oh yeah, remember I met you at this place, at this hotel. We hung out in the lobby and ate pizza. Oh yeah, we went to that bar.
Oh, it helps.
That's why I was so loose around all the guys, because I'm like, I met these guys already. So when I had my first like tryouts and TV tryouts stuff, like I'd already met them. Like I always tell the story about Edge, where it's like Edge was the first wrestler that I met. I went to, if you were a big enough fan, maybe you were there too, where they would do those charity softball games.
I know, but I've never been to one.
Okay, so they would do those, and I was in line. I actually cut the line like crazy. The line was, there must have been like 500 people in line. And I somehow managed to butt my way into like the first 30. Just there was like a ruckus and I kind of snuck in. And no one wanted to call me on it, I guess. But I was about to meet the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. And then they switched them and it ended up being Edge and Val Venus. So like there's this picture of like young, I don't know, 8, 9-year-old me with those guys. So Edge was like the first wrestler I met. And then I met him a ton of other times. I met him at one of Jericho's concerts here. I heard he was at the radio station at Team 990. So I took a detour from going to school because I was at Dawson, which wasn't too far from there, went down to Green Avenue and waited for Edge for his interview to be done to meet him. And he was like coming out, just going straight to a limo, probably being like flown to or driven to the airport to be flown to somewhere else. And I met him there. So I met him a bunch of times. But this one time I met him in Massachusetts, in Boston. He had just won the WWE title. And it was a match with him and Batista. And I think it was him, Batista, Undertaker, a triple threat. And he won the title. So he drives up to the hotel. And there's I'd say about 12, 13 people there waiting for him. And he drives around to the back to park his car. And we thought he was doing it just to avoid the people. So I kind of walked there. I'm like, I know Edge. I met him a couple of times, like whatever. Like, I'm not scared of these guys. And I walk up to him and he gets out of his car. He's got his bag and he's walking away from me when he clearly sees me and he's walking away from me. This was also the dead of winter. I had my long winter coat. I had like a long leather winter coat, almost like a trench coat. Had a toque on and stuff. So he's walking away and then I start walking up to him and he's walking faster. And I'm like, oh, so like, Edge has become a jerk now all of a sudden. Then he gets to the door and the door doesn't open. And now I'm as close to him as I am to you, but his back is to me. And I'm like, hey, Edge. He's like, yeah. He turns around. He's like terrified. I'm like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And would you mind, signing some autographs for these fans? They wanted me to ask you. Yes, as long as you don't hurt me. So in his mind, he thought I was someone trying to mug him.
Oh, because
I had my toque on and my coat, and I was like following him, and he thought I was someone trying to mug him. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to mug you, man. I love you, man. You're Canadian. It's like I'm Canadian too.
Oh, that's funny.
So flash forward to like that was I'd say probably like in 2008, let's say. Yeah, it was definitely 2008. I had my tryout in right at the start of 2010, and Edge was one of the guest speakers there. So he finishes his speech and everything, and then I start talking with him, and we're talking for about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'm like, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but like we met each other before. And he's like, yeah, you do look familiar. And I'm like, yeah, I met you when I was really young. And I start listing like all the times I met him, which at that point are like 6 times. And he just stops me. He's like, no, you were that guy in Boston. You were that one that snuck up on me in Boston. I thought you were trying to mug me or something. And without fail, every time I meet Edge, I always will tell people like, hey, Edge and I have met before, and he knows me. Like he literally will call me Jeremy or call me Prophet. Like he
the Boston mugger.
It's like a first name basis. Like you tell him Prophet, like he knows exactly who I am. And then I'll say like, yeah, we met a bunch of times, and then he'll always bring it up. He'll be like, yeah, and that time in Boston where you scared me.
That's fucking. Edge seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah, I always like Christian better, but just so happens.
You're a Christian guy, yeah?
Always like Christian better. Christian.
I like Christian on the mic more.
Christian is a gift to wrestling. He is. What I love about Christian is his in-ring ability, and I love the fact that watch any Christian match. What I think is his super ability is when he's winning, he always makes me believe he's going to lose, and when he's losing, he always makes me believe that he's going to win.
And he's still doing that to this day.
Like my favorite, people ask not enough people ask me my favorite matches, but in my top 3 favorite matches, Christian when he won the world title from Alberto Del Rio in the TLC match.
Edge helped him. He interfered in that to help him out?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. But it was well placed. That's one of my favorite matches of all time. I can't say enough good about Christian. And the fact that, Christian, and this doesn't come from me, this actually comes from Paul, from Paulie Pigeon. As he said, Christian, when he was in shape, was in better shape than Edge.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually, oh man, what a funny fucking world. Just thinking about that. What happened with your tryouts? First of all, how do you get WWE tryouts? That must be hard.
Oh, it all comes down to who you know.
Okay.
Don't believe the hype about hard work and all these things, because you see guys that look like proper bums off the street getting tryouts.
Good, because I'm ready to try out.
Yeah, you could. You easily could. You look like you could be on WWE's NXT UK brand.
No, I wouldn't. I think my power in wrestling would be on the mic. That would be my power.
Commentating?
Yeah, because you understand the shit that he does. It's fun to look at, and everybody, when they're on the couch, they think they can do it, right? It's not fucking easy. It's training. It's all that. And physique, the way he looks, for example. That takes effort. It takes time. He has that down.
He looks the part.
I won't shut the fuck up and I'll say stuff. I'm good on the mic. I know my abilities, sir. All right, but they don't need another.
Like a Jerry the King Lawler? Or?
No, I'd be more of a Heyman.
Heyman?
But yeah, I'd love to just be a prick to everyone and just hit. But they don't need that right now.
No.
What they need is this. They need young talent that they look the part and they could take the bumps, and that's what they need.
Well, in a lot of ways, I'm the exception to the rule, because if you watch wrestling, and this is why I tell people, look, you want to know my place in wrestling, you want to know how good I am, watch wrestling. Watch any wrestling anywhere in the world. Find me another guy that looks the way I look, that moves the way I move, that their wrestling is as athletic and as vicious, violent, and believable, and that can get it done on the microphone, that can talk people into wanting to see what I can do, that can make people laugh, that can make people, hear something I say, hear me just totally shred a guy on a mic, and, they'll never look at that guy the same. Find someone with all those skills. Even someone, not to say I'm better than The Rock, but even someone like The Rock.
I love The Rock.
He's got
on the mic. He's
got
else.
The lyrics. He's next level.
Yeah.
But as a total package, you're going to see The Rock come off the top rope with a moonsault or a 450 splash? Not likely. But don't get me wrong. Rock's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But look at my skill set. Find someone who can do all the things I do. I've not met that wrestler. I've not seen that wrestler. And if he exists, I'd love to interview him. I'd love to meet him. But find someone that has the look, the talk, and the wrestling.
You clearly have never heard of the Hurricane.
Whatever
happened to the Hurricane?
I was the biggest fan.
What happened to the Hurricane?
He's still.
Well,
I don't know. He's not wrestling.
He's an agent for.
He's an agent. Okay, that's what he does. Good for him.
Yeah, and you're right. The Hurricane, he did have a great skill set. He absolutely did.
He's so entertaining.
He was one of my favorites, man. Shane Helms. I got the chance to meet him. We were on 2 shows together, and I had a great conversation with him because, first time I met him, just the way the card was structured. Sometimes, if someone has a match right after yours, you're busy, making sure that your match is gonna go off good, and you don't really get the chance to see each other because my match is ending and he's going out for his match, especially if you're not in the same dressing room. So even though I was a huge fan of his, and believe me, I used to go to the shows dressed as the Hurricane. That was, if you think back, maybe that's what you remember me as in the parking lot.
Oh, dude, you have a better memory than me because it all came back because you were talking. But if you weren't talking about it, I wouldn't have remembered specific events. But it was just so funny because you mentioned Devon and it came in there. But you have a better memory, and I like that because
But I'll say this
bring back ideas.
Oh, well, thanks. I'll say this with Hurricane though. So the first time we barely even got to I don't even think I got to shake his hand or anything. And I was such a big fan of this guy. Fast forward to maybe 2 years later, and the first one was in Montreal. This one is in Rhode Island. We're in West Warwick, Rhode Island. He's on the show. I'm on the show. And I'm doing they brought me in for just a Royal Rumble. That's all I'm doing. But it was a pretty good booking because I started early and I went all the way to the finals of the Rumble, even though I didn't win it, unfortunately. But Hurricane was doing a match with a guy who's in WWE now named Ivar, part of a tag team called the Viking Raiders.
Okay.
And on that show, he just happened to go and look at the curtain. My match hadn't happened yet. His was coming up later on. And he just started talking to me. And he's like, oh, how's the show been? How's this match been? And then we get to talking, and I'm just like, hey, we met each other back in Montreal, but I didn't get a chance to say hi. And he goes into this story where he says, oh, it happens like that sometimes. Like me, he's like, I was such a big fan of the Rock and Roll Express when I was younger, because he's from North Carolina. Rock and Roll Express are from around there. And he's like, I remember when I was starting in the business, I was a ref, and I got to ref one of their matches, and I was just so nervous because it's man, I used to go to shows dressed as the Rock and Roll Express, and now I'm there in their match, and I didn't even know what to say to them. I'm like, man, I used to go to shows dressed as you.
That's pretty fucking amazing.
Oh, yeah. And then we get into this whole discussion. We're talking about his career and everything. And the best compliment he gave me was after I went out and wrestled in the Rumble. We're in different locker rooms. He comes over to the locker room and he says to me, hey, man, I watched your stuff in there. That was great. And you look stiff. And then, stiff in wrestling, meaning you look like you're killing the guy. And then one of the other guys, the guy I was beating on, he's like, oh, no, everything was safe. And he's like, oh, cool. Now I know I can work with you.
Oh, that's good. You can look stiff and not be stiff.
That's the idea. You want to look like you're killing the guy without actually killing the guy.
Because they're putting their lives in your hands.
Oh yeah, you gotta make it look like you're just destroying your opponent. The best wrestlers are the ones that can make it look absolutely real to the point where people be like, man, how's he able to do that to him without killing him? How's he able to drop him on his head like that and then the guy's fine? How's he able to hit him so solidly and the guy's okay? That's the magic of wrestling. And that's what I take pride in, is that if you watch a Jeremy Prophet match, you're getting a good dose of violence that looks legit, but I'm also a professional and I'm taking care of the person that's in there with me to make sure they can, still perform at an optimal level the next day. And it ain't ballet. So, I mean, it's physical and it hurts.
It is physical.
But you got to understand that hurting someone and injuring someone, there's a fine line there. Like, yeah, you're going to feel it when you're in there with me.
Yeah.
But, I'm not in there to injure anybody. I'm not in there to shorten anyone's career and, take food off their table.
What made you think of starting a show about wrestling? Is it because you had to get this shit off your chest? Like, I want to talk to someone about this stuff.
It all comes down to the prod god, Bruno.
Okay. I like Bruno.
Busting balls. Like when JOFO podcast started, I was doing Franks with Frank. I was trying to get involved. I was trying to do their social media, helping as much as I can because when they started, I was on the boats.
Okay.
So for me, I couldn't be involved physically in studio. So I said, let me try to help as much as I can. They're my friends. I like what they're doing. I want to be involved. Why don't you do a wrestling podcast? No. Why don't you do a wrestling podcast? No. After 3-4 times, and we're watching wrestling on a daily basis. So I said, oh, you know what, Bruno, let's try it out. Kyle came coincidentally for an episode on the JOFO podcast, figured out that he liked wrestling. The match was already there for us. We talked and we liked wrestling together. So we said, let's do a podcast together. That's how it started, and here we are today. Almost close to 50 episodes in.
Yeah.
Live streams. Now we have Jeremy Prophet on our side,
and he's loving it. He's good on the mic. He's having fun on the shows.
Well, it's to have him there. It's putting us on the map and putting him on the map as well. And hopefully one day he'll be raising an AEW championship or a WWE championship or a Ring of Honor championship one day. And maybe I'll be standing next to him when he does it. So
I mean, an AEW one seems more likely because these guys are. It seems to me like they're more for let's get quality. Let's go for quality people instead of just. Well, they're getting names, but
they're entertaining as well. Because the thing is, all these guys are with AEW because they could stay on their Twitch. They could do things on the outside of wrestling. In WWE, you can do nothing on the outside by yourself. So that's what sucks about WWE. But AEW, I think a good fit for you would be Ring of Honor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean Ring of Honor, AEW. I've been softening to the idea of WWE because I've had my tryouts with WWE. So the way I look at it is like everyone deserves a shot.
Yeah.
And when I say everyone deserves a shot, sometimes you deserve a shot to succeed. Sometimes you deserve a shot to fail. When I would put on wrestling shows, I've ran a couple promotions myself. I'd get tons of guys being like, "Hey, I want to wrestle for you. Hey, I want to wrestle for you." When I hear a guy wants to wrestle for me, I think of myself talking to other companies saying, "Hey, I'd like to wrestle for you." And why I believe everyone deserves a shot is because if you get that shot and you do well, then you've just shown that you deserve to be there. If you get that shot and you mess up, then you've just shown you don't deserve to be there. But at least that's going to shut you up and be like, I didn't really want to give you that shot. I gave it to you. That's what you brought to the table. That wasn't sufficient. It's why I really believe everyone deserves a shot. So with WWE, it's like I had my shot with them. Some guys get tons of shots. When it comes down to it, I used to, wrestle in Massachusetts, and those guys there, they get more Raws and SmackDowns than we do. And that's the only time they try out people is at Raws and SmackDowns. So they'll get like 6 in a year. I've had 4 TV tryouts in 15 years of being a wrestler. So this is why I say with Canada and the US,
it's harder.
It's so different. I mean, you get only a handful of guys that get chosen to be brought to TV to get a look from the company. And it's only maybe twice a year, and there's maybe one set of TV tapings on the East Coast, Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, one set on the West Coast, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. So that's how it works. So they're only looking at us 2 times a year, whereas big markets in the States, California, New England, Florida, Texas, these places, they're getting 6-7 looks in a calendar year, sometimes even more. So that's why the odds really aren't slanted in our favor. But yeah, with a company like WWE, AEW, Ring of Honor, any of those big companies. Look, anyone who will put a work visa in my hand, that's more powerful than any amount of money, because it'll give me the ability to be able to go and practice my craft, do what I love to do. It just kills me that we can't go wrestle in the United States. I can't go to big companies with all these guys who, in my opinion, are quite frankly very overrated, because ain't none of them a Jeremy Prophet. They all have weaknesses. They all have holes in their games.
That's the attitude you got to have.
It is what it is, man, because when it comes down to it, all these guys get hype. They get their, high rankings in the PWI 500 and all these things.
The fuck is that?
They get all these fans that if these fans knew who I was, they would quickly forget who their favorite wrestler was. That's pretty much
that's the kind of attitude you got to have as a pro wrestler. I like that shit. I just realized something. I applied to work at the WWE twice.
Really?
Yeah, as a writer once, and once as a on air interviewer or post show stuff. And someone had told me, did you mention did they ask you if you're Canadian or like American? I said yeah. They said, and you said you're Canadian. And I was like yeah. Nobody ever looked at it. Nobody ever looked at it. No wonder.
I gotta defend WWE in their hiring practices because they do actually have more Canadians than any of the other companies. So that's a feather in their cap, and they have the ability to be able to get a work visa for, even guys who have never wrestled a day in their life, which is funny because by definition, it's, an O1 visa. It's someone with an exceptional skill.
Yeah.
Yet they can take someone who was like an Iranian pole vaulter who's never wrestled a day in his life, and they can get him a work visa as a professional wrestler instead of someone like me who actually loves the sport. I saw a documentary recently on a girl who's becoming really popular now, Bianca Belair.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
The WWE. She's going to challenge for the SmackDown Women's title against Sasha Banks at WrestleMania coming up in a few weeks.
Interesting.
And she was a track and field star and all these things. Anyways, pretty much I watched her documentary and all it told me was if I never wrestled a day in my life, I'd probably have a better chance of getting signed by WWE.
Crazy,
because everything this girl can do, all of her feats of athleticism, of strengths, of, I can do all of that. There's nothing this girl can do that I can't do. But because I'm a wrestler, I'm viewed under a different light. And that's, one of the things with WWE. They have this stigma of if you're a wrestler, you're judged under this criteria. And if you're some freak athlete, which I am a freak athlete.
I'm a freak.
But I'm a wrestler. So
I'm just a freak, and they're not looking at me.
You got to be a freak and not a wrestler.
Yeah,
if you're a wrestler and a freak.
I got chances then. That's what that means. I got chances to get in
chances.
I would just love one day to sit and talk with Vince McMahon. This guy is so interesting, and all the interviews he's done, because he's smart, he's a businessman, have been the interviews where you know how they're going to go.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Vince McMahon, not to ask him questions that are going to get him in trouble, just shoot the shit. Just be you. What are we doing? What'd you have the other day? And just share stories and joke. I think that would be the best light to see McMahon. And could you imagine the stories this motherfucker has?
He's got a lot. You know what? I think he doesn't want to tell these stories
he might,
to me.
He might one day.
Well, they're having a Vince McMahon biopic that they're doing.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of creative say in that. I mean, I've met Vince. I met him traveling with Paul. We met him in Toronto. I have a picture with him from there. I met him also in Boston. And then when I had my tryouts, I saw him just about every time. In fact, the first time I saw him, we did Toronto and then Ottawa. Ottawa, I got to wrestle on SmackDown. I got an actual match on TV. But didn't see Vince the whole time. He was either in his office or maybe I was somewhere when he was, walking around, but we didn't see him. He was just, like this dark Sith Lord that we didn't see. We just saw his understudies there. So after I had done my match on the SmackDown, show's over. Pretty much everyone has left, and I'm ecstatic because I got to wrestle for WWE. I got to do the whole thing, walk out in front of the crowd. The match was nothing to write home about, but they still gave me a chance to be on SmackDown, and I can, to this day, say that, I got to wrestle for the WWE. So I'm leaving. I'm going to the parking lot to my car, and I'm turning the corner around one of their production trucks around to where I was parked. I literally turn the corner, and I bump into someone. And I'm kind of mad that somebody walked into me. So there's this anger that comes over me, and then I look, and it's Vince McMahon.
And he fucking drops you right there.
Oh, he drops. I drop his old ass with relative ease. But no, it caught me off guard because it's the last person I was expecting to run into, and it was Vince McMahon. And that feeling of anger and I'm about to cuss the guy and
left.
Oh wow, it's Vince. And in that moment, it's just me and him there in the parking lot. It's like I tell people, I could have mugged him, like Edge was profiling me about.
Could you imagine if you had mugged him and then he tells Edge, what's the deal with these black guys? Every time we're alone with them, they keep mugging us.
And I just remember, I'm like, I think of that moment and I remember it. I got a good memory and all, but I remember saying to him, hey, it was a pleasure to work for you tonight. And he was like, oh, it was great having you. You did well, kid. And he shook my hand and he patted me on the shoulder. But I realize now, I'm like, man, I had Vince McMahon to myself there in that parking lot. I should have really tried to sell myself to him. I should have said, look, what do I got to do to work for your company? Let's cut the bullshit here. What do I got to do? And I didn't do that. And I look back and I'm like, maybe I should have.
Yeah, with guys like him, you never know. But I think he's the kind of guy that probably would appreciate that kind of initiative.
Yeah, he seems like, I don't want to say a nice guy, but he doesn't seem like this big, scary thing that people think he is. I remember the last set of tryouts that I did, which was 2012, 2 years after that, I remember standing there with another guy who was trying out, and he had never done a TV tryout. So, keep in mind, I've been around all these guys even before I got tryouts, and now I've been around them a lot. So I'm totally desensitized to all that. And there's Vince and Triple H walking down the hallway in the Bell Center. And this guy's like, oh my God, it's Vince. It's like, yeah, he almost wants to hide. I'm like, what are you doing? Watch this. So, have you ever been in the Bell Center in the back?
Yes.
So there's this one area where it's kind of elevated, and there's a rail there. Anyways, there's an elevated area, and there's like a rail in front of it and whatnot. They're walking. They're on a lower level. So we're like about, let's say, 5 feet higher than them. And they're walking by. This guy's like terrified. Like he wants to go high. He doesn't want to be seen. I'm like, watch this. I'm like, hey, Vince, how's it going?
That's what you got to do, bro. You're an adult.
And he looks over at me. He looks up like, hey. And then Triple H was there, and he's just like,
the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, like Triple H was not having any of it. Like he I don't think he liked that I did that. But Vince was a big smile. Hey.
But even Triple H, I mean, he gets a lot of shit too.
A lot of people, I think a lot of people talk bad about Vince because of his persona on TV, and they take it out on him in real life. But I think
people are
he's
idiots.
a down to earth guy, and like you said,
I saw Vince the second time I met him.
shame.
The second time I met him in Boston, it shocked me to see Vince in the hotel lobby the day of a Monday Night Raw, which you'd think would be a stressful day. All his crew goes and gets in the limo. Vince sees the fans that are there waiting, goes and signed autographs for every fan that was there, took pictures with people, took the picture. How does it look? Oh, it doesn't look that good? Oh, I got to take another one with you? Let's take another one together. I saw him, and he was the nicest guy. He was such a gentleman to everybody. And that told me more about Vince McMahon than any story I'll ever hear about him. I like making fun of him. I like telling all these
But that's
jokes,
what he wants. That's what he understands the persona.
he loves it.
Like with Vince, I feel too many people, they deify him. They put him on this pedestal. And I think that Vince is probably the kind of person, you grow up around money and all these things. Like you're sick of people treating you like that. You want people to treat you like you're one of the guys, like you're just another dude. And that's how I see Vince. It's people who grow up and they don't have that respect and adoration, that they want to be put on that pedestal. They want to feel like there's something important. But a guy like Vince, I think he's a human being like anyone else.
Wants to run his business.
Exactly.
God damn. So then you guys, I didn't ask you this yet. How did you two meet?
How did we meet?
Oh yeah,
Like, I mean, adult life, not when you were kids. Like, how did you say, you know what? I got a podcast. You want to come on? Like, how did that happen?
How did it happen, Jeremy?
Okay,
I think Bruno was.
I feel I've been hogging the mic a lot. I was going to let you explain that one, but
the floor is yours, champ.
I'm the one with the memory. So,
so you remember? Okay.
so Bruno and I are very close.
Well, I was on the boat when you came on the JOFO in the Ring podcast.
Yeah, but we had, but it's
well, we knew each other before.
I'll lay out the timeline for him. So I knew him from that thing in the past there with the Tough Enough that he did, those shows that he was running that he didn't take me for. That I forgive you for it. He's my favorite out of the.
Never hear the end
out of him and Kyle. He's my favorite. Kyle's my whipping boy. So Bruno and I go way back. Bruno and I played hockey together. We were about 7 years old. We played hockey together. We played baseball together. I played hockey for 15 years. Of those 15 years, Bruno and I were on the same team probably about 10 of those years.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So he is my nearest and dearest friend from my days of playing hockey. And we went to high school together. So Bruno and I had always kind of loosely kept in touch. And I knew he was a big wrestling fan. One of the main reasons why we were such good friends was because Bruno was one of the only other wrestling fans. And like we're talking about back before the Attitude Era, and wrestling was like the cool thing, and you had to know what was going on in WWE if you want to be able to have any kind of water cooler talk, or be one of the cool kids in school or whatever. Those days that hopefully may come back one day. Who knows? So Bruno and I were always pretty close. So when he started doing the JOFO podcast, I started seeing it here and there online, and then he sent me a link to an episode where he talked about, and I think it might have been, was it the first episode?
I think it was the second episode when I talked about you.
Okay, where he talked about me, and he told the story of, I could have had this guy and part of my LWF, but I didn't. Now he's Canadian champion. Now he's wrestled all these guys. Wrestled Scott Steiner and, all these famous wrestlers, wrestled for the WWE. So Bruno sent me that clip. And then we started talking, and then they asked me to come in and be a guest. And that was kind of how it started. I was a guest. You and Kyle, or it might have just been you.
It was me and Kyle.
It was you and Kyle, interviewed me. We had a fun episode. And after a while, I'm spinning my wheels, COVID hit and whatnot, and I'm not wrestling anymore. And by the way, I'm a guy who took wrestling very seriously. So I've been doing this for 15 years. By the grace of God, no injuries, no concussions, no broken bones, nothing. Never had more than 3 weeks off.
Okay.
In 15 years, I have not gone more than 3 consecutive weeks.
Which is tough to do.
It is, but you know, when you're this good, it's not hard to find work. You know,
That's
don't want to be braggadocious, but when
You're a goddamn pro wrestler. You should set this place on fire right now, friend.
you know, if you want your listeners, you know, to have a you know, a little bit of homework, it's go out there and find a wrestler better than Jeremy Prophet. Really, find a guy who talks as good, looks as good, and performs as good and as diversely. Find that. I want to meet that person. I really do, because I think if the business had more people like that, wrestling would be a lot more popular.
Very true.
But like I said, with me, I'm very in demand. And, you know, I know I'm good at what I do. So I like to be involved in wrestling. But without wrestling, physical wrestling, because of COVID restrictions, I was at a bit of a loss. So it was me that reached out to Bruno. And around the same time, I think he was thinking of maybe trying to figure out something for me. And I said, look, I want to come on board with this full time. And I think I can help you guys. And I said, and I don't know if he ever discussed this with you, but I had said, I don't want to be the star of the show.
Yes.
I want to play a part. I don't want to take away from what, you know, Frank and Kyle are doing in the show. I want to be I want to be a little bit of extra seasoning. You know, just that. I don't want to be the whole cake. You know, I just a little icing on the cake. That I'm fine with that. I think that, you know, I have some contacts. I can, you know, help to get you guys some good interviews, you know, add a little bit of insight, but I don't want to be the main attraction. I don't want to be the star. I want you guys to have that platform and succeed and take the credit and the success. I just, you know, you guys are my friends. I don't have many friends that I grew up with that I still get to be in touch with and whatnot. So it was cool on all fronts. And then on top of that, my actual education is in journalism. And I had hosted a wrestling show before. I used to host, what was our show called? Ringside Report.
Okay.
With my buddy David Simon. He hosts Ringside Report. Our show was called Wrestling Uncensored. We did that for a number of years, started at Dawson and then got it on TSN radio. So it was a natural fit for me on many levels. And now, you know, I get to bring that same kind of expertise and knowledge to these guys. And to me, we succeed together is how I always say it. It's not like, you know, you're talking about you'd like to see me with a championship in Ring of Honor or in AEW. You know, if I get that, we all win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, the same way I want to see the show get tons of subscribers, tons of views, you know, get to the point where we're like, where we're giving Hannibal a run for his money with his channel, you know, that kind of thing.
Hopefully one day.
Because we all win if we get there.
Who's Hannibal? Why does that sound familiar?
He's a good friend of Jeremy Prophet's. He's got the biggest Canadian
Wrestling
combat
channel.
sports channel
Yeah.
in Canada.
Only wrestling or combat sports in general?
Combat sports
Combat
too.
sports.
Really? Good for him.
The Hannibal TV.
Hannibal TV. I think I've run on videos of him.
260,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Does he? Is he from Montreal or no?
He's from Ottawa.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Been a friend of mine for a long time. You know, I've been the one guy who stuck by him when, you know, a lot of people stabbed him in the back and all kinds of things. And he proved them all wrong. And he built one of the biggest channels. He built an empire just through sheer hard work and will. Yeah. I remember when he called me up the first time and he's like, hey, I'm thinking of starting a little podcast thing. You know, he didn't even have, you know, had maybe a handful, 100 subscribers, and it's 250,000 plus now. Top channel, gets more views than wrestling companies. That's what's insane, is that he gets more views than the NWA, than Ring of Honor, than all these other companies. Like he beats wrestling companies, than New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Does he do rumors and stuff? Does he talk about that? Because I always find rumors and backstage stuff are fun. People like that.
Especially from guys that are in the business as well, so you could relate to them, right?
He covers everything. There's career interviews. There's he reads the news and rumors of the day. He'll do lives. He has matches on there too. In fact, most of the stuff you find of me is on Hannibal TV.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's built an empire.
Who's here now in the city? Like, is actually here? Is Kevin Owens here, or is he with the WWE?
I think he lives in Florida now.
Lives in Florida. Same thing with Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
Who cares about Sami Zayn?
It's literally the most. I think the most requested guest I've had was people are like, "Can you please reach out to him?" And I never did because I don't have I don't know anybody to reach out. So I don't want to do the online thing.
Kevin or Zayn?
Zayn.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Kevin, people ask too, but I don't know why. I never even thought of him.
They live in Florida now. They used to live in.
But Sami Zayn, they're like, you trust me? It's going to be fun. No.
He's a character. Yeah.
I think it might be fun, but I never even thought of reaching out to pro wrestlers to bring them on.
think WWE,
Only Jericho I've reached out to.
Bringing guys from WWE, I think it's a lot harder to get guys on your show than let's say AEW guys or Ring of Honor guys. I think that's the contractual obligation just
Where
to
they're
do
tight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that maybe if they're not allowed to do it, or
But you have beef with Sami Zayn. This is wrestling beef. I like this shit.
I don't like Sami Zayn.
On a personal level.
Oh, on a very personal
What
level,
happened with you with Sami Zayn?
Yeah. Sami Zayn, someone should like douse him with gasoline, light him on fire.
That bad? What did he do?
Sami Zayn, he's a backstabber. He's a two-faced jerk, a two-faced snake.
I can't tell
here
what's
we
real
go.
or what's not anymore.
No, this is real. No,
This is not kayfabe.
I'm the harbinger of truth. I would
Okay.
be doing a disservice to all your listeners if I was going to come on here and say something that wasn't true.
Yeah. Really, he's an asshole.
I've told the story many a times.
What? What? There's a story. I'm listening. Let's go.
Many a times.
Let's go. This gives me more of a reason to reach out to him because then he could come and talk about this story. What happened?
Yeah, you
what
can
happened?
bring him on. I'd love to. No, I wouldn't really. Could not care less. What
I
he
wanna
would
hear
have to
this.
say. And he'll tell you, but I'd be curious to know his version of it. So when I did my first tryout at TV in 2010, this would be at the second day. So we did Raw. The first day was in Toronto. Second day was in Ottawa. He wasn't signed yet. He wasn't with WWE or anything. He was just a guy working the independents. I think he was actually with Ring of Honor at the time. And so I was doing pretty good. I was making friends with everybody. I had cornered John Laurinaitis, who's the head of talent relations, and because I'm all business when I'm there, and that's just me. It's like I'm focused on something. I go for it. I get it. That's it. Take
Hey,
no
you're there to
prisoners.
do a job, not to fucking eat ice cream.
Exactly. And you got a bunch of guys, laughing it up, talking about Hulk Hogan and stuff in the changing room. It's like, why am I here in a glorified janitor's closet with a bunch of guys who are never going to do anything in the business here?
All right, I like
and
your
they're
attitude.
laughing, having a good time. It's like, no, I'm serious. So, anyways, he was there. And I cornered John Laurinaitis, and I could see he was one of the guys, peering his head around the corner of what's going on here? Thinking? I don't know what he's thinking. I can't put myself in his head. But anyways, Laurinaitis eventually took a liking to me because I stood up to him. I had a good amount of confidence and whatnot. Answered some of his trick questions with ease. They took me away. They brought me into a room, shot some promos with me. They wanted to hear how I talked, so we did that. The other guys, I don't know. They weren't really taking a look at any of the other guys like Zayn and all them. And then the next day, as soon as I get there, change into my gear, I'm down by ringside because Laurinaitis had told me, we're going to get you in the ring. We're going to take a look at you. So I'm ready to go. And Kurt Hawkins and Lance Archer, I don't know if you know who they are. Lance Archer's in AEW. Kurt Hawkins is with Impact Wrestling. They were in WWE at the time. And they come up to me and they're like, are you Jeremy? I'm like, yeah. They're like, well, we're going to wrestle you tonight on SmackDown. I'm like, okay, cool. So they're like, yeah, Pat Patterson told us that you're really good. So, we're going to wrestle you tonight on SmackDown. So I already have that match. Everything's good. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm standing by where the ring steps are. Zayn and Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman are standing in the entranceway. Pretty much. So we're not far from each other. Like I'm as close to Zayn as I am to Poseidon over there.
Okay.
So Kidman and Jamie Noble ask him, hey, we need one of these guys for a dark match. Who should we take? So he starts selling himself and he starts saying, oh, well, you could use me. And they're like, well, we don't know if we could use you. You're still under contract with Ring of Honor. And, you're El Generico. What could we call you? And he's like, well, maybe you could call me more Generico. Maybe, we could figure out something like that. And, I don't blame him for, trying to sell himself.
Yeah, he did the smart thing.
So then they're like, well, we can't do that. Like, but do you know any of these guys? And he's like, oh, well, I know this guy over here is a guy named Josh. I think Josh Abercrombie was his wrestling name. He's like, I know Josh over here. And then, they responded, well, no, we can't. That guy, he's too pathetic looking.
That's fine.
So then they said, what about me? They mentioned me. Now, Kidman knew of me because I had already done a week-long tryout in Florida for Florida Championship Wrestling. And Kidman really took a liking to me. And so they said, what about him? And he goes into this speech now, Zayn, Rami, goes into this speech about, oh, well, I don't really know him that much. I think he's kind of green, green being like inexperienced.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of green. I don't think he'd be the right. And the thing is, like most people, human nature, they kind of be like, okay, they're over there. They're talking about me. I'm going to be listening, but I'm like this. I'm like, go on. Talk about me. I wasn't doing that as a gesture, but I'm like, I want you to know I'm looking at you and I'm listening to everything that you are saying right now. And he's like, and he went on and he buried me to them. Now,
What?
So part of me is like, well, I already know I have the other match in my back pocket anyways, but I know they take a more serious look at you if it's in an actual dark match. It was going to be with Alberto Del Rio also.
What? That would have been a good fucking.
Oh, yeah, it
look
would have been
for
a great
you.
match. I got along super well with him the next set of tapings that I did with them in 2012. So that ends up happening. And he went on a bit more too, because then they said, and it's kind of confusing as to who he was talking about, because the next thing they said is, how about the big guy over there? So another wrestler named Drew Onyx, who was on one of our episodes, he felt like they were talking about him. I know there was another wrestler beside him too, a guy doing a cowboy gimmick. I think his name was Blackjack Phoenix. Was from the States. They could have been talking about him too. I don't know. They're both big guys. So I don't know. And he was like, oh, I don't really know that guy. And I know that, Drew Onyx had taken a bit of an exception to that because he thought it was about him. I don't know for sure. I know what I heard. I know the words I heard. I didn't hear him mentioned by name.
Yeah.
But they said, how about the big guy over there?
You only know about you that he was talking shit.
Oh, I know about me. Yeah. So we went back to catering, and I came out of catering and I saw him walking down the hallway, and I stopped him and I said, so what was that about over there? And he starts going into this backpedaling. Well, man, I wasn't trying to put you down. I was trying to get it for me. I wasn't trying to, it wasn't about, trying to not get you the match. I just wanted them to consider me for it. I was the one that wanted it. And I see this, I see him start to melt there in front of me. And I'm like, so I could get the instant gratification of headbutting his two front teeth down his throat, but what's that?
It's not going to help.
What's that going to get me?
Yeah.
That's going to get me kicked out of here. That's going to make me lose the match that I already have.
They're going to say you're unstable.
It's going to. That I'm not worried about. I don't worry about how people.
I don't know, but one of my podcast friends, he's been called unstable. They keep throwing him in a mental hospital once a week.
I don't worry about it. I don't worry about how I'm perceived, because the way people perceive me doesn't supersede my ability to want to be able to sleep at night satisfied with the person that I am and the level of integrity I carry myself with.
You want that? You're like, you know what? You're getting a headbutt.
But I didn't. I headbutt him. Yeah, in cold blood. Put his head through a windshield in cold blood. No word of a lie right there.
Wow.
But when it comes down to it, he had that moment. I decided to kind of let it go, but it was still very underhanded. Fast forward to a couple of years later, or maybe like a year.
Oh my God, the plot thickens.
Like a year later, I had an altercation with Kevin Owens.
What?
And it was very interesting. Well, yeah, because I don't let people look, even though these people have a little bit more experience.
That's not what I'm
than me.
saying. I'm just saying I'm surprised that they're all turning out to be assholes.
Well, don't confuse Kevin with
okay, good.
No. Don't confuse Kevin with Rami, because Kevin, I think, is a stand-up guy. I think Kevin actually has some balls. Yeah. That's why we got into this confrontation. Rami is a gutless serpent, but Kevin's okay in my book. So we got into an altercation. These things happen in wrestling. It's a testosterone-filled environment and whatnot. We got into an altercation. You can go on YouTube and see other interviews where I explain it. But pretty much he had said something. So I had said, okay, let's go talk about it. Man to man, away from people. There's no witnesses. There's just you and me. And you'll notice in the world that when there's a crowd, people act differently than when you just get them one-on-one. So that's what I wanted to do there with Kevin. And I'm like, if we got to fight, we got to fight. I don't mind. So we started talking. Amidst our disagreements and whatnot, we start to establish some common ground. And even he himself said, Rami told me that, he told them that you were green and all those things. And he said, he couldn't have allowed you to get that because you'd be too outlandish about it. You'd throw it in everybody's face. So this is why I say he put the knife in my back. I had never said a cross word about the guy up until that moment. I thought we were actually kind of cool. We were not in each other's lanes. I remember even after one of those WWE events, hanging out with him outside the Marriott there, outside the hotel, same thing, wanting to meet wrestlers and all that. Remember talking to him on MSN back in the day a couple of times, asking, for some advice here and there. There was never any animosity. And then he put a knife in my back based on rumors, hearsay, stuff, reading on the internet, all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's just like, who are you to judge, me getting an opportunity and I'd be too outlandish about it and whatnot. It's like, no, I work damn hard. I work harder than you, clearly, judging by the, pathetic little milk bottle of a physique that you go around with in your day-to-day life. I've worked pretty hard in the ring. My body stayed intact, unlike you with, two bad shoulders and having to get shots in your neck so that you can prolong what's left of your career. Look, when it comes down to it, I've been blessed with a lot of things, but I've also worked very hard to get to where I am. So, to go and put a knife in my back to a guy who's never put a knife in anybody's back, because in my opinion, if you got to put a knife in somebody's back, all that means to me is maybe you should just work a little bit harder and then you can get to that same level. I never put a knife in anybody's back, never screwed anybody over in the wrestling business. So for someone to do that to me, I think it's pretty low. And like I said, everyone you see on the way up, you're going to see them on the way down. And so that's when it comes down to it, is that I know I have more good years ahead of me than he does in his career. I have less miles on my body, and I think I'm just built for this a lot more than he is. And, if he ever would want to cross paths with me, I'm not squashing this beef. This is not some kind of a thing of, we'll talk it out. We'll have a handshake. Oh, we'll get along. Oh, we'll be smiling in pictures together. No, I can hold a grudge for a very long time. In fact, I think it's very therapeutic for me to actually hold a grudge, because I think it's a human weakness to sometimes let grudges go and to forgive and forget, because I don't forgive and I don't forget.
I agree with some grudges you can't, but some grudges I feel like you could. I don't know about this one. Imagine, because he's got an open invite now, because I want to hear his side of the story. Imagine he comes on and he's like, Jeremy Prophet raped me. And they're like, oh, fuck. No wonder he's mad, But I doubt that's going to happen. But what if he would, let's say he'd come on the show, for example, and then he'd be like, you know what? Yeah, looking back at it, I was a fucking asshole. Somebody did that to me. I don't know why I was a prick. I don't know why I was so jealous or whatever. That to me, if I was in your shoes, if he'd be like, look, I'm fucking sorry. If I could go back in time, I would do it differently, but I was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
That to me would be like, yeah, I'm squashing the fucking beef. Like you just did, there's nothing more to go with this. It's not like you're saying it's my fault. You're literally admitting to, for some reason, people do stupid things when they're young too. Yeah. And I'm not saying, I'm not telling you to forgive him, because we don't know. He might say, fuck that guy. I hate Jeremy Prophet. You never know. I'm just saying it's weird. You don't know what goes on in people's fucking heads. People do stupid shit sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that if somebody does something extremely reprehensible, I don't think I'm sorry, I was a different person, just suddenly gives them a free pass.
True there too.
I don't. I think it's why we actually, are still prosecuting members of the Third Reich, despite the fact that World War II is long gone. I think it's a reason that where there are certain crimes, certain lines that people cross that are still punishable. To me, there's no statute of limitations on
fucking over an opportunity for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
God damn,
I'd be more than happy. Like I said, there's not going to be any kind of a squashing of this beef. I will gladly, go to my grave, and I'll definitely be going to my grave long after he's gone to his, holding this grudge and not feeling bad about it and still being able to sleep at night. This is, hey, look, I'll be happy if you want to have us both in studio.
I would do it. I'd love to mediate and try to find common ground.
I'd be happy to say the same things that I'm saying right now to his face and escalate it to whatever level he would want to escalate it to, because that's fine by me. I mean, I don't say anything behind someone's back that I wouldn't say to their face, because that's a lack of integrity. Yeah. But I would very much say exactly what I'm saying right now with the person here. If it escalates, it escalates. I'm fine with that too.
What about Kevin Owens?
I don't mind Kevin.
You don't mind Kevin? I'm going to reach out to both these guys.
Kevin and I had our moment. I respect what he's done. I respect what he's done for his family.
Yeah.
I've always thought Kevin was actually, a really good wrestler too. Yeah. And so I have no issues with Kevin. I mean, my last memory of Kevin, it's surprising, because I know Kevin, the last little exchange we had, there was a video that was posted, and I think he took it out of context without watching it, but I tell the story of our altercation, and he's always told the story the same way too. But the last actual face-to-face interaction I had with him was right before he went and did his tryouts for WWE. And it's ironic, because the day before the last time we met, he had already done his tryouts, and he's just waiting for them to get back to him on, are they is it a yes or a no? So I had done a show with another guy by the name of Jimmy Jacobs, who wrestled for Ring of Honor. We get along pretty well, Jacobs and I. And I was telling him about some of these issues with the altercation with Kevin, but more so the stuff with Rami. And he was saying how, these guys, they had their issues with management and Ring of Honor, with Jim Cornette and whatnot. But then he talked about Kevin, and he said how, Kevin, I know he's a little worried because, he did those tryouts with WWE, and he's worried that they're going to be like, oh, we don't like his body, he's kind of fat. And he was saying how he was explaining to him, Kevin, look, they already knew you were fat when they gave you the tryouts.
Yeah.
They're just bringing you there. They just want to see what you're made of, and I know those tryouts they have them do a bunch of CrossFit drills. It's not to see how good of a wrestler they are. They know the talent's there. They just want to see if they can break these people, because when you're wrestling, when you're 300 days on the road, when you're not home with your family and all
Something
that kind of
happen.
stuff, you might break down. You might say, hey, this business isn't for me. You might get burned out. It's why I look at it myself, where I'm like, I'm built for this, because, I have options to take whatever kind of schedule I want, and I don't take days off. I would want to wrestle every single day. And hey, look, somehow I've never gotten injured doing this. So, when it comes down to it, I'm made for this business. And, being on the road, that don't bother me. Nothing would stand in my way when it comes to wrestling. I am made for this, born and bred. I've wanted this for the longest time. Anyways, getting back on track. So I knew Kevin had that bit of a worry. So he's there in the locker room. I remember going up to him and saying, hey, Kevin, heard you had those tryouts. I just want to say, I think you got a really good chance. I'm wishing you the best of luck. And I personally believe they will hire you. That was my last interaction with him.
And you were right. You were right on the money.
Well, yeah. Happening, yeah.
Well, yeah, because it made sense. And he's talented. He's talented on
he's
the
very
microphone.
talented,
He's
yeah.
talented in the ring. He doesn't have the greatest physique, but, he has the mic ability.
And he has the ability, and he's a tough cookie.
He's lost a lot of weight though since he started in WWE, which I admire from him.
He's looking good, but all you wrestlers, you're all fucking wacky and crazy. But that's why I like you guys. Same in comics, we're all insane. So I always love hearing this kind of stuff, like the behind the scenes. I prefer when people put a peaceful resolution. There's some stuff that you can't. Like I think anybody who fights with Jim Cornette can't put a peaceful resolution behind it. This guy apparently rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Everybody. You too? Do you have a Jim Cornette story?
I'm actually blocked from Jim Cornette on Twitter.
He blocked you.
There was a picture of somebody put up a picture of Sonny. I don't remember if you remember Sonny from back in the day.
Yeah, I remember Sonny.
Whatever, her tits were sticking out, and you see Jim Cornette looking at her tits, and somebody made a comment, and I don't even remember what I said, or if maybe because I retweeted it, or I liked it, or I commented with a thumbs up. Next day, blocked.
That's a real photo. You didn't Photoshop it.
Literally to the point like that, but. I'm not someone that instigates on Twitter, but to see that, I'm like, okay. Like,
this guy talks a lot of shit.
You talk shit, and I'm doing a thumbs up for someone else put up.
For what it's worth, I don't mind Jim Cornette. I really don't. I think that he has certain opinions that differ from mine. I had this exact conversation yesterday when we had Rhett Titus on our live episode. He's a wrestler for Ring of Honor that I had done WWE tryouts, and he was also at the same tryouts. So we go way back. And he's a very big Jim Cornette fan. I wouldn't say I'm a Jim Cornette fan, but Jim Cornette has some valuable knowledge. And I think that the issue with Cornette is that he can say even like one thing that will offend a person, but he will take it to such an extent that it will scar people, and they will disregard everything else he says, despite the fact that there's a lot of good advice.
Yes.
Like, I love the fact that he stresses that wrestling needs to be legit and real and credible, that the credibility of the sport of wrestling is the most paramount element of the game today. And I love that. And a lot of what he says, it's stuff that still works. It's not outdated. And, just because he'll say one or two things and people it'll rub them such the wrong way, they'll drag his name through the mud. And I don't think that's the case. Like I said yesterday, I like Vince Russo. He hates Vince Russo. I love Vince Russo.
Yeah, I'm an outsider, so all of it to me is a circus. So I appreciate both of them for the ridiculousness, right?
Entertaining as well.
Yeah, entertaining. That's why. So I don't have a horse in the race, right? Russo makes me laugh. He's also a dummy. He's done a lot of stupid shit. But you're telling me he hasn't provided quality entertainment at the same time? He has. For me, I'm not in the business. I was never scarred by it.
Well, it wasn't for guys like that.
Well, see, with Vince Russo, the thing is that he emphasizes that you need to have an entertaining television product. He sees that this is a TV show first and foremost. So you need characters, you need character development. You need that aspect to be able to cater to the non-wrestling fan.
Bro, y'all marks, bro. Bro, you just marks, bro.
Bro.
See, Cornette is catering to the traditional wrestling fan, whereas Russo wants to cater to the non-wrestling fan. And you need a bit of both. You need to please the wrestling fans, but you also need to be able to get more people to watch the program.
100%.
I can kind of I'm in the middle on that one with the two of them, but I do like Vince Russo. I think that he's a pretty cool guy, very misunderstood. Maybe I just like the underdog in the story here. But
he wouldn't be so misunderstood if he could speak English. That would help,
Bro.
Yeah, now I'm starting to feud with Russo. No, I like all those guys because to me, as an outsider, it's all entertaining. And I don't take other people's beefs behind the scenes seriously for my life. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It would be like you right now. I'm like, oh, fuck you. Why are you fighting with Sami Zayn? I don't give a shit. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me.
I'm still going to like Sami Zayn. I'm still going to like Kevin Owens.
Well, I like him a little less because of the story, because he's a bit of a cunt.
Exactly.
But I would love to actually have him here, sit him down, and ask him his point of view.
I'd love to hear his point of view, too.
Because, dude, sometimes you get a different point of view. And not that he would agree. He would probably still be like, still a shitty reason. But I always like finding out what was the reason. There must be a it can't just be I'm an asshole.
Yeah, there has to be.
There has to be something in there, which would make me, it's intriguing. Yo, when are people gonna find JOFO in the Ring? Do you have a date where new episodes are on for sure?
Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. going forward as our new episodes. This week we got Devon Dudley. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be having Chris Van Vliet as well.
I know that guy with the interviews.
Yes,
I like that fucking guy.
Yeah, that was a great interview as well, and a couple surprises here and there coming up. But every Tuesday, 7 p.m. JOFO in the Ring YouTube channel.
In the description right now, you're going to find links for JOFO in the Ring. You're going to find links for Jeremy, for Frank. So subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff, but also follow them. How else are you going to find out whose ass Jeremy's going to be kicking in the future? You got to follow him to know these things because he's going to write about it. And then when he's in your city, you can go watch him choke people out, jump off fucking turnbuckles. It's a crazy exciting time. So links in the description. I'm going to thank both of you guys for coming.
Thank you.
And I have something I'm going to tell you after the show that I think is funny. Thank you guys and go fuck yourselves.